Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wednesday, June 8th edition of StudentLoanJustice.org. Welcome. If you're new to the group, welcome. Where have you been? Why did it take you so long to find us? Anyways, we're glad that you found us. We're the oldest, largest, first, and in many ways, even today, still the only true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. For the first 15 years of our existence, that meant very moderately getting bankruptcy protections returned to student loans. But more recently, as of summer 2019, we've been calling on the president to cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order. Something the president can do without needing one dime from the Treasury, without adding one thin nickel to the national debt. You can't say that about PPP loans, can you? No, you can't. So if you have any questions or comments, throw them out. If you're watching us on live on Twitter or on Facebook, I will gladly respond to them in stream. Lots going on right now, guys. This is the busiest we've ever been as a grassroots group in the 17-year history of student loan justice. Very glad to tell you we got some pretty good news from Senator Dick Durbin yesterday. What was it, the day before? Anyways, Senator Durbin spoke on the Senate floor recently, I'm just going to say. I think it was yesterday. And he just reiterated the fact that bankruptcy protections have got to be returned to student loans. And he went a little bit further and he said he expects to be saying a lot more about this soon. So that's good. In case you don't know, there's a bill in the Senate right now, S-2598. That is Senator Durbin's bill. The bill will return bankruptcy protections to federal student loans. There's a 10-year waiting period, so it's not perfect. But if your student loans are more than 10 years old, then your loans, at least as the bill is written right now, knock on wood, your loans will be treated the same as all other loans in bankruptcy court. All other loans for all other things, which should have never been changed in the first place. But anyways, there's no good reason that we should have been fighting for 17 years to do something as unpleasant as file for bankruptcy. But ladies and gentlemen, that remains at the core of the problem. And hopefully, if you've been following this issue at all, it's pretty much dawned on you by now that in the current politics, and as long as bankruptcy remains gone, Joe Biden is not going to cancel loans meaningfully. He's just not. They've been teasing us for a year and a half now. And the last I heard, they were going to put off any loan cancellation thing that they might trot out until late summer. That's the current rumor. Who knows? But Joe Biden has no intention or desire of canceling any student loans. And whatever he rolls out, as long as the threat of bankruptcy remains gone, is going to be nonsense. Up to $10,000 is nonsense. Up to $50,000 is nonsense. Up to $1 million billion is nonsense. Those two words, up to, are a deal breaker. See, the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the Department of Education is not a good faith entity. If they can find a way to not cancel loans, that is exactly what they'll do. That's what they've done for the past 17 years. Look at public service loan forgiveness. Look at income contingent repayment. Look at pay as you earn. Look at revised pay as you earn. Look at IBR. The disqualification rate for those programs is 99%, ladies and gentlemen, even with all the new sort of token loan cancellations that have been trotted out in the press. The Department of Education has no desire or intentions of canceling any loans. And Joe Biden and the department are like this. Joe Biden bears a lot of responsibility for this problem in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. They will not do anything unless they are pushed. And the thing that will push them is us having the leverage of bankruptcy back on our side. So I'm telling you guys, hear me now, believe me later maybe, but hopefully believe me now. Bankruptcy remains the core of this problem. You know, the founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws ahead of the power to declare war and raise an army in the Constitution. They knew something. You know, people like John Adams and George Washington and many others were being wrecked by debt to British banks and merchants. Thomas Jefferson. Robert Morris spent time in debtor's prison. He did multiple stints in debtor's prison. So we do not have uniform bankruptcy laws as they stand now. If you look at the law, it says this and that. What it says, and then all of a sudden there's a special exemption for student loans. Oh, by the way, we're also guaranteed equal protection under the law in the U.S. Constitution, and we are not afforded equal protection under the bankruptcy laws. We student loan borrowers, and by the way, student loan borrowers, federal student loan borrowers certainly are as a class financially disadvantaged. We're financially needy. In fact, that is a precondition for even getting federal student loans. So we are denied equal protection under the law. So these loans are unconstitutional, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad that you found us. And by the way, we're not just a small ragtag bunch of ne'er-do-wells here on this group. First of all, we've got over 1 million people. We've got like 1.145 million people on our petition. We've got hundreds of thousands of people across all of our other platforms, Facebook and Twitter and email and you name it. So we're not a small force. We are a very large force to be reckoned with. But you know, the bigger numbers are way even bigger than that. Of the 43.4 million federal student loan borrowers, fully 80% of them, something like 36 million people, were never going to be able to repay their loans before the pandemic. So that's only gotten worse. Trust me on that. That's a lot of people. And all of those people should be in our group, by the way. And they won't know about us unless you tell them. So 80% were screwed on their loans, 36 million people. If you know 5 people with student loans, 4 of them were screwed on their loans, the chances are, before the pandemic. So if you were to tell them about our group, our petition at change.org/cancel student loans, they would be glad to know about us and they would be strongly inclined to join. I think that's really the only way we're going to get anywhere, guys. We're not a huge organization, by the way. We may have a ton of people, but we don't have any kind of a budget to speak of. We don't have a marketing staff. We don't have a lobbying department. You know, we don't have a bunch of staff people that we can boss around. No, we don't have any of that. All we have are people. That's the thing about grassroots. And the one thing we've learned over the years is that no matter how big the group is, if people think they can hide in the crowd and not pull their own weight, that never works. It never, ever, ever works. That's why we've been here for 17 years, 17 very long years. So I'm looking for your comments now. So there was the good thing from Durban the other day. Also, I'm very glad to announce. Never, ever, ever works. That's why I'm very glad to report that that little 500-word article that we wrote at the Tallahassee Democrat, which just pointed out some very simple truths about the student loan problem and who the borrowers are. That got reprinted and I'm told was wound up top front page on Yahoo News yesterday. So that's good. We need to get around Florida because Florida sucks. There's $120 billion in federal student loan debt draped over the people of Florida. And most of that is federal. Most of that is owed to the federal government. Now, the assessed value of Disney World, I just happened to look up, is $2 billion. So there's enough student loan debt in Florida to buy Disney World 60 times. That's pretty bad. And by the way, the entire state budget of the state of Florida is only $80 billion. So it's 50% higher than the entire state. Florida's screwed, guys. Florida is one of the worst states in the country. It is not the worst, by the way, though. The worst, depending on how you count it, is probably either Texas, Maryland, or actually Georgia. I'd say pound for pound is probably the worst. Those are all southern states, by the way. So go figure. Hey, I see we have a bunch of comments here. Let me see if I can get to them all. Leslie Fishman, how are you? Leslie says, good evening all. Jim, hey, Jim Smith was with us tonight. Hey, Jim. Evelyn Lara Ferris says hello and gives a wave. Leslie Fishman, I hate to ask, but can you all see my live chat? I'm reading your comment, Leslie, so I can see your chat. Jim Smith says, everyone, take daily action, please. I could not agree with you more, Jim. You know, the strongest thing that we have going on this group right now, guys, is our daily actions. So if you go to our website, studentloanjustice.org, somewhere on there, I think at the very top, you'll see daily action. Go there and do our daily action. If you got to have a Twitter account. I hate Twitter. You hate Twitter. Get a Twitter account. Twitter actually freaking works. I have to say, it just does. Get a Twitter account. You can do one of our daily actions probably in about 30 seconds. It's like retweet this, retweet that, retweet this and that. Do that. You know, if even 10% of our members were doing that every day, we would overwhelm every Twitter account of every politician, every influencer, every celebrity, anyone who we wanted to. We would massively overwhelm their Twitter account every day. If even 10% of our members did that. Same thing, we could close down the phone switchboards, if they even have switchboards anymore, of every politician in Washington, D.C. If even 10% of our members were pulling their weight and doing the daily actions. You know, this problem would be solved when that happened, guys. So you have no idea how important you are. And don't think that someone else on this group like Jim or Leslie or Gordon or anybody else is going to pull your weight for you, because it's just not going to happen. It's never worked that way. And you're not better than us, by the way, I might add. I happen to know I see some highly intelligent people. Hey, Joanna's with us today. I see some highly intelligent people here tonight. Hey, Brian Landa's with us. How are you? We have attorneys on this group. We have Harvard lawyers on this group. We have people from probably every university in the nation on our group. Yale, Princeton, you name it. So you're not better than us. And we're not going to pull your weight for you. You've got to pull your own weight on this group. And that is the most important thing I will say tonight. You can start by doing our daily actions. You know, while we're on the topic, let me just throw in that most people, if you're normal, don't know a damn thing about student loans, except that you have them. You don't even know if your loans are private or federal, or you're not sure. No idea. So that's completely understandable. In fact, I pity the person who knows much about student loans, because who cares, right? But this is your battle, and you can very quickly become a very capable and fearsome student loan justice warrior if you go here to studentloanjustice.medium.com. We publish all of our research there, and there's some very, I would say, jaw-dropping papers in there. Like if you read the most recent 8 or 9 articles that we've published, you'll be pretty stunned. In fact, you may not even believe some of the headlines, but I am here to tell you, we do very careful and thorough research here. We don't make any claims that are not true, and usually they're easily verifiable through nothing more than Department of Education data. Recent Department of Education data most of the time. So do that. Take an evening out. Realize what you're up against with this student loan scam, and it is a scam. And it's not your fault, by the way. Lending systems fail from time to time because they get corrupted. This lending system is failing because it got corrupted. And that's kind of how that goes. We didn't break this lending system, ladies and gentlemen. This lending system tried to break us. We're also a fiercely nonpartisan group, guys. If you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Green or a Libertarian or a Marxist or a fascist, you are very welcome on this group. But, you know, it is a battle. There's a lot of ignorant people out there who don't understand what we're up against. What we're up against is an unconstitutional, for the reasons I think I mentioned before, Big government, we've never seen a bigger government-run lending program ever. In fact, if the Department of Education was a bank, it would be the largest bank in the United States and like, I think, 8th largest in the world or something. This is a big government, unconstitutional, predatory, hyperinflationary lending scam. It's a scam, ladies and gentlemen. And to those of you who have paid huge amounts of money into this scam, I can only say, in my humble opinion, I hope you will stop, because this is a nationally threatening lending beast that should not be fed. It should be taken to the bath and drowned in the tub. You know, before the pandemic, 58.9%. I used to say 64.3, but I had to revise my research because I'm honest, and we do very quality research. Before the pandemic, nearly 60% of everybody was not paying on their student loans. Here now, during, I guess, the pandemic, I think we're still in the pandemic, aren't we? Almost nobody's paying during this repayment pause. And guys, the writing's on the wall. The people in Washington, D.C., they don't even want to turn this lending program back on because they know what's going to happen. And you know what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. It'll be like this. Nobody's going to pay. We're done. We, the people, are done with this lending scam. And it doesn't matter what the finger waggers might say or do. They can cry and scream all they want. That's not going to change the fact. These loans will not be paid. These loans will be canceled. Now, the only question, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very important question, is whether this loan beast goes away quietly and quickly and cleanly, or whether it goes out the hard way, kicking and screaming and biting and clawing and injuring us on its way out. I want that first thing. You know, I don't want these loans to be canceled because of my demise, hopefully many years from now. And you shouldn't either. I want these loans gone. I want them gone right now so I can get on with my freaking life. I'm 52 years old. I don't know how old you are, but however old you are, do you not want to get on with your life? I think you do. That's why you need to help us. That's why you need to be at a minimum doing those daily actions every single day. How many times do I have to say it? But we're getting closer, guys. The thing, Durban, today was good. I'm seeing most of the haters sort of quietly go away lately over the past month or so. They're getting less and less as people are finally starting to talk to their friends and family, particularly in conservative circles. You know, we're a nonpartisan group, guys, but this issue has been politicized where it's the R's against us and the D's who claim they're for us. But frankly, I'm dubious about that. Really, it's a uniparty thing, guys. It's kind of a class war. Honestly, I have to say it's kind of a class war. And last I checked, the lower income people in a class war, they don't run the newspapers. They don't run Forbes magazine. They don't run the television stations. So, you know, it's kind of like the revolution will largely not be televised. And the stuff that we're seeing right now in the media it's propaganda, guys. It's disgusting propaganda. And it's manufactured. It's not organic like we are. It's manufactured. It's bought and paid for. And the points that they mention are stupid. They keep making the same points over and over and over, trying to drill it into the mind of America. Student loan cancellation will benefit the wealthy. That's bullshit. The vast majority of student loans are held by people in the bottom 80% income bracket. And by the way, 100% of all student loan borrowers were determined to be financially needy as a precondition for getting the loans. Compare that to PPP loans, where 75% of PPP loans are held by the highest earning 20% of us. The highest earning 20% of us for student loans hold only 30%. So, and by the way, the highest 20% earners, that's $100,000 or more. And I'm sorry, guys, but that's just not that much money. You know, the people on our group who I know who earn $100,000 or more, they're not these young doctors and lawyers who are doing great. they're older people. They're people, and I'm not going to start mentioning names, but like we have, you name it. We have a 58-year-old, 59-year-old person on our group. She finally earns over $100,000 a year, but she's already repaid nearly $100,000 on a $26,000 loan. And she is still owing $132,000 on this $26,000 loan. So even the 20% of student loan borrowers who supposedly earn over $100,000 a year, I'm not even sure if I believe that statistic in the first place. And I can talk about that if you want. But assuming that's true, even those people, they are not wealthy. They are not wealthy at all. In fact, the person I just mentioned, she's barely even saved anything up for retirement, which is coming like right around the corner for her. She's not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. That's ridiculous. The bad guys also say, oh, canceling student loans will cause inflation. That's bullshit. If every nickel in federal student loans was canceled tomorrow, that would return roughly $400 into the average student loan borrower's pocket every month. Now, the average household during this inflationary period, their household expenses have increased by $500 a month. So give them $400 extra a month, and they still can't buy everything they bought before. So that's ridiculous. Canceling student loans will not cause inflation. And that's one of the stupidest lies out there. Hey, Brian Landis says, my Navient payment amount has nearly tripled as of this Friday. No relief at all of any kind through COVID. FFELP loans, 11.2 million of us, 347 billion is FFEL. I don't think it's quite that big, Brian. I think it's a little less than that. I think it's around 240 billion the last I checked. But Brian raises a very good point, particularly among the older people out here on this group who don't have the kind of loans that the president can cancel by executive order. In other words, these are the Federal Family Education Loan Program loans, FELP, FFELP. These loans they are not owned by the federal government. They're owned by private companies. The president cannot cancel them by executive order. The only good thing I have to say about FFELP loans, well, I don't have anything good to say about them, actually. Yeah, and they didn't qualify for the COVID relief. So people who had them were just screwed in every which way. Now, the good news I have for you, I guess, Brian, the best news I have for you, Brian, is that our bill S2598 is getting very close, and that will absolutely cover you. So, and this goes for everybody. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy, guys. Having the threat of bankruptcy is what is so important. Whether you want your loans completely canceled, whether you want some kind of a middling solution like a break on interest, whether you need to file for bankruptcy, whatever your situation may be, we've all got to fight very hard for S2598. Now, one thing I would say, Brian, and we don't give advice here. Everybody's going to make their own decisions. And it's really impossible to even give any good advice, guys, because we're living through the collapse of the worst lending scam in modern American history. In fact, all American history. By far, the lending system is collapsing. Nobody in Washington, D.C. has a clue what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. And nobody in Forbes magazine who claims to say they know what's going to happen knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows. It's the Wild West. But what I will say, Brian, is that the president can only cancel loans that are owned by the federal government. So having said that, there are some programs out there whereby you can consolidate your loans out of the FFELP program into the direct loan program. You can do that. It's expensive. And like I said, I don't recommend it. Honestly, every person has their own unique situation, and I don't want to be the guy giving bad advice. So let me just repeat that. But you could do it. Might be worth checking out. Might be something you want to do. Now, when we get our bankruptcy rights back, there's a 10-year waiting period on the debt. So as our bill is written right now, if you did consolidate your FFEL loans into the direct program, The age of the loans would still be more than 10 years old. So you still would qualify for bankruptcy discharge if you needed it. But again, it's the Wild West. That could change. The bill has not yet been passed. I know the bill has gone through all of its sort of private discussions, and it would appear to be pretty much, the language would appear to be pretty much locked in at this point, but you never know, guys. And by the way, if you're confused about your student loans, hey, don't even trip. Everyone's confused. I'm confused. I have no idea what's going to happen. The only thing I know for sure that is going to happen is that very few people will ever pay on certainly their federal student loans ever again. That's the one thing I can tell you for sure. People like me to put on like, oh, what's the chances of our bankruptcy bill passing? And I hate to put percentages on things, guys, because this stuff does not happen in a vacuum. You know, we wouldn't even have a bankruptcy bill to fight for, but for the efforts of the people on this group. So the future is really not set. We would not be talking about student loan cancellation, guys. Certainly not by executive order, but for the efforts of the people on this group. I kid you not. It was this group that started the petition in March 2020 before almost anyone. Certainly before anyone in the media was writing anything about canceling student loans by executive order. That started here, guys. I kid you not. So this stuff does not happen in a vacuum, and what we do really matters. So right now, if I had to put a percentage on it, I don't know. I feel like I would say it feels like about a 80-something% chance that our bill will pass. But guys, that's not nearly good enough, because our opposition they are not going to go away without a fight. We've seen them fight hard, and they're fighting as harder than we've ever seen them fight right now. But guys, that does not mean that they're not going to win this battle in Washington, D.C. You know, we've matched them toe for toe, tit for tat up to this point. But guys, we need way more people helping in order for me to have any kind of confidence. So I hope that answers. Well, I'm not even sure that you had a question there, Brian, but I hope I spoke to your comment in an effective way. Brian mentions that he paid during COVID, and it still increased by $10,000. Yeah, and Brian reiterates my thing about up to can mean anything, ladies and gentlemen. And when the Department of Education bureaucratized whatever loan cancellation gimmick Joe Biden may or may not trot out at the end of the summer, or whenever he's going to do it, up to could mean nothing. And it will mean absolutely nothing for many, and it will mean essentially nothing for most if bankruptcy remains gone from these loans and Joe Biden, who is a snake, by the way, trots out whatever gimmick he wants to trot out. It's fake. It's fake, guys. In fact, my greatest fear is that we're going to see some nonsense up to X amount loan cancellation, and they will keep bankruptcy rights away from the loans. That is absolutely the trick that the bad guys want to play on us, ladies and gentlemen. I kid you not. We saw this trick back in 2007. We saw it again in 2011. And here we're seeing it here now again today. We're seeing all kinds of these fancy people with Harvard and Yale and Princeton pedigrees, many of them calling themselves liberal or progressive, by the way, interestingly. And they are trotting out yet another doomed to fail income-driven repayment program like IBR and ICR and pay-as-you-earn and revised pay-as-you-earn. They're doing that again. They're going to roll something out. In fact, I've seen an unpublished paper as what it's going to look like. And I'm not even going to share the details with you because, guys, I'm telling you, it's crap. It's crap. Any kind of income-based repayment program, income-driven repayment program, as long as bankruptcy remains gone, is going to be fake. It's a trick. It is a trick of the swamp to perpetuate this failed, unconstitutional, hyperinflationary, nationally threatening, red state wrecking, veteran wrecking, senior wrecking, America wrecking, lending scam. Sorry for all the adjectives. Joanna Kern says in Washington, D.C. I don't know what that means. Jim Smith says power to the people. And hell yeah, Jim. Pardon my French there. Power to, and remember, guys, this lending system doesn't control us. We control it. You know, the golden rule is he who holds the gold makes the rule. That's like one version of the golden rule. Who holds that fake fiat $1.6 trillion in federal student loan debt? Who holds that gold? We do. We, the people. Every nickel of that 1.6 trillion has to come from our pockets or not. Who decides? We decide. We have the power. So, and you know, the bad guys, they want you intimidated, guys. They want you intimidated. The bad guys, the people at Forbes magazine, the snakes, charlatans, and hucksters, and propagandists, and sophists at Forbes magazine, they want you scared. They want you sitting there doing nothing, waiting, watching, and worrying with your tail in between your legs, listening to every word they utter, hanging on their every word. That's what the swamp people at Forbes magazine and many other places want. Don't give them the pleasure. We control this lending system, not the other way around. And the founding fathers are on our side, by the way. Now, to be honest, I think the founding fathers are probably looking down on us and saying, how did our people get so weak? Like, what is this TV thing? What is this internet thing? Why are our people so scared of the federal government for this ridiculous lending scam that we gave them every tool that they needed in the Constitution to prevent? Wow, something's really not right in this country. That's probably what the founding fathers are thinking as they're looking down on us, running around with our tails in between our legs. Don't do that. Be stronger than that, would you please? We need your strength here on this group. It's not a hard battle that we're fighting, guys. It's basically just showing up. You know, anybody can do our daily actions, 5 minutes a day, 30 seconds a day. Anybody can call their media and say, you know, you should really do a story about student loan debt in our state. And you can point them to us, and we will take it from there. And we will give them mind-blowing statistics about their state, particularly if you live in the South. But for any state, the numbers are outrageous and cartoonish and obscene. And we can find people in every single town and city in this country who have very compelling stories to tell and are willing to be interviewed. Anyone can get their local media to do a story. Anyone can call their governor and say, you know, this whole student loan thing, I know these are federal loans, but this is now a state sovereignty issue. Again, particularly if you live in the South. But every state is being crushed by this ridiculous federal debt. And every governor in the union should be on our side. Every governor, particularly Republican governors, should be standing shoulder to shoulder with us and saying, Mr. President, enough. Greg Abbott, I will not allow the great state of Texas to be conquered and enslaved by this debt. Mr. President, cancel these loans. Cancel every nickel that you can cancel legally and return bankruptcy protections to every other student loan. Get this done, Mr. President. You could be the person that makes that happen. You know, I mentioned Texas, but it's not just Texas. All kinds of states, every state, in fact, their governor should be saying that. But absolutely states like Florida, Ron DeSantis, Georgia, Brian Kemp, Alabama, Kay Ivey, South Dakota, Kristi Noem, New Hampshire, Chris Sununu. Sure was South Dakota the other night. I was wrong on that. Chris Sununu, New Hampshire. Bill Lee, Tennessee. You name it. You name the southern state, Mississippi, North South Carolina, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, I already said. All those, Missouri, all those states are so absolutely screwed by student loan debt is just jaw-dropping. So step up. We need you to help, because if you haven't noticed, this problem is not going to solve itself. And if you haven't noticed, Joe Biden is not looking like he's going to do anything meaningful unless he is pushed. This group right here is way more important than you might think, guys. This group is that push. I kid you not. You know, it was this group that convinced Elizabeth Warren to bring bankruptcy into her agenda in Iowa in 2019. It was this group who convinced Greg Murphy, Biden's campaign manager, to adopt Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy plan, and which includes, by the way, a executive action to stop, call on Department of Education to stop contesting student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. That all started here with this group, guys. I kid you not. What we do matters. What you do matters. Hey, Vanjian Root says, what is your take on this new USED economist, Gov? What is an economist going to do for them? Is this a sneaky move? I'm not sure what you're referring to, Vanji. I know the Department of Education hires a ton of PhD economists all the time. They've got a lot of economists working for them. Some of them are good people, by the way. I happen to know. Bruce Murray, for example, retired. Well, I guess technically he wasn't an economist, but he was a PhD mathematician. But maybe if you could maybe elaborate on that a little bit, and you can jog my memory, or I'll know what you're talking about. But pretty much everything the Department of Education does, Vanji, you can pretty much assume it's a sneaky move. So by default, I'm just going to say yes. You're probably right. If you suspect something sneaky, 99% chance you're right. Hey, Leslie Fishman says, I know almost everyone with student loans at work, but everyone is completely oblivious to what's going on, and I feel like I'm the only one doing my homework and research. Welcome to the student loan twilight zone, Leslie. I felt like that for many, 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 many years. And in fact, for a little while, it was true. I actually was the only one who was like fighting this battle. And I know it still feels like that today, Leslie. All I can tell you is that you're not alone. And that thank goodness I know the internet sucks in many ways, but thank goodness we at least have the right to assemble still among our constitutional rights. And it's certainly not perfect. Lord knows we are shadow banned and throttled badly by the powers that be who run the internet, these social media people. But be glad that you aren't alone. And whether anybody admits it or not to you, not only are we not a small minority of ne'er-do-wells, as I said before, we are the large majority of all student loan borrowers. That 80% who are never going to be able to pay, 80% underwater, 36 million people, that's probably closer to 38, 9 million people today, if not 40 million. COVID was not good for this economy. I don't care what anybody says. They say unemployment's at record lows. I don't believe it. I think there's a ton of people who just dropped out of the job force. But yeah, no, we are the large majority of all borrowers, guys. We're not the goths sitting at the corner table. We're the cool kids at the main table. Okay. Hey, Terry Todd's with us tonight. No offense to either goths or jocks or whatever. I'm just talking outside my neck here. Hey, Terry Dodd, how are you? Terry says, if you want these loans, aka ankle biters, out of your life, get your hands to work and do the daily actions. Now is not the time to wait and see. Get out of the group if you're going to just sit and do nothing. Terry, it's hard listening to hard words like Terry just uttered, but I agree with Terry. If you're not going to be doing the work, just get out, hit the bricks. Frankly, we don't want you on this group. You're slowing us down. And shame on you, by the way. And don't think you're better than us. You're not. We have very good people on this group, and they're doing the hard work. Everybody whose name I've read tonight, they are doing the hard work. They are the pioneers. We and me and them are the pioneers. And this is a very noble fight that we're engaged in. I for one, feel privileged to be making this historically important fight. If you don't have any intentions to help, then just get out. We don't want you here. You know, for many years, we had so many people come onto our group and they go, oh, it's never going to change. It's never going to change. President Bush hates us. That's never going to change. And those were the people. They were the loudest, they were the whiniest, and they were the laziest. And if you're one of those people, we don't want you on our group. Get out. Leave. Get out. Come on back when you're ready to actually work. This is your battle. These are your loans. Make no mistake. Nobody's going to pull your weight for you. That's never happened. It will never happen. In the immortal words of fictional character hero, Terminator hero, John Connor, you have no idea how important you are. We need you. We don't need you whining, waiting, watching, and worrying. We don't need that. If you want to whine on this group, and yeah, we whine a lot on this group, but you should be doing the work to justify sitting there and whining. And cynical whining will not get it done. Leslie says, we are a melting pot of educated individuals who are indentured. Yeah, guys, this is not a political thing at all. We're not Democrats. We're not Republicans. We're not males, females. I mean, we're all of those things. You can try and intersect this group every which way, and you'll probably be able to do it. This is a women's issue. This is an African-American issue. This is a veterans issue. This is a seniors issue. This is a red state issue. This is a non-graduator issue. 40% of everybody never graduated. This is an issue for truck drivers. We've got many truck drivers on this group. We've got welders and bakers and plumbers and other dirty job doing people on this group. This is not, it blows my mind. You have no idea how strong we are. Our political diversity and our ethnic and every other diversity thing. The only thing that we are not is super rich. Like, I don't think there's many people who are super duper rich on our group. There actually are a couple, though, believe it or not. So yeah, no matter what your deal is, you need to help. And whatever your particular political, ethnic, or religious or other persuasion may be, you're very welcome on this group. And our diversity is our strength. The one thing we would maybe ask is, don't talk about anything other than student loans on this group, please. Let's not start talking about gun control. Let's not start talking about immigration or any other issue that's not student loans. And as long as that happens, everything on this group is hunky-dory and copacetic. Leslie says, thank you so much for these live streams because I've learned so much. In fact, I shut the naysayers down last week just from what I learned from the lectures and had everyone squirming in their seat. Good. That's exactly where you want to be, Leslie. You know, we on this group, we love going into the lion's den. It does no good to preach to the choir. We like going on places like Fox News, like we did a month ago. We like going on News Nation and Newsmax and the War Room. We love going to where the haters are because the haters are wrong and they're ignorant and they will never know the truth about this lending scam unless and until we tell them. You know, most of the haters, we're a nonpartisan group, but most of the haters are conservative. They just are. They think of student loans and they think of liberal, lazy, entitled, young, successful snowflakes who just don't want to pay their debt. And every single one of those things I just said is wrong. Maybe don't want to pay your debt. I do not want to pay my debt anymore. My entire adult life has been ruined by these fucking things. Pardon my French. But we certainly are not, entitled snowflakes. We're not Democrats. We're not any of that. We're not Republicans as a group. It's very important that we lift the scales of ignorance off of their eyes. And as I said, if you go to our Medium thing and just read the past like 8 or 9 articles, you will be able to come back and answer all in a very snappy, efficient way. You will be able to shut the haters down very quickly. And by the way, the number one thing you might do if you forget everything I said tonight, remember this little tip. Just if you see a hater, just say, you know what? Hear it from Tucker and type bit.ly, bit.ly/ hear it from Tucker. And that will take you to a YouTube video where Tucker Carlson is arguing on our side. Tucker Carlson is a breath of fresh air in a rancid, bad breath cave of opposition among the so-called conservatives against us. We have a very conservative argument, by the way. I went on with Dana Perino live a month or so ago, and I think I made that argument very effectively. This is a big government, red state wrecking, veteran wrecking, senior wrecking, lending scam. And it needs to be taken to the bath and drowned in the tub. That's a very conservative thing that I just said. Anyone calling themselves a conservative who is against us is wrong, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves, and they will hopefully rue the day, hopefully live to rue the day. If they do live long enough, they will absolutely rue the day that they ever fought for this lending scam and the colleges who helped perpetuate it, by the way. Most conservatives say they don't like the colleges. So one question I love to ask conservatives who are hating on us, I like to ask them this. I say, hey man, are the colleges paying you? Or have they duped you into working for them for free? That's my question to them. They don't like that at all. But it's a very fair question. Because anybody wagging their finger at you, whether they know it or not, they're fighting for the colleges. They're fighting for Washington, D.C. They're fighting for the swamp. That's not conservative. That's not MAGA. I don't give a damn what Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida might wag his fingers. Ron DeSantis is an idiot. And if he was smart, if he was a true conservative, he would flip-flop 180 degrees on this issue and start fighting for his people rather than the federal government and the colleges and the worst big government lending scam in U.S. history. So Brian says, conflicted on whether I should pay that $600 Navy on Friday. Yeah, Brian, I don't give any advice. As I've said many times, I will continue to say my humble opinion, nobody should ever pay another dime on their federal student loans. It's not good to feed the beast. I know a lot of people in our group, they make very nominal payments every 9 months to keep their loans out of default. It's no solution. The interest will accrue, your loans will grow, but it does keep you out of default. But it's a very tough position, Brian. It is, as I said, the Wild West out there. There's no good advice to give. The lending system is breaking down as we speak. But certainly I would err on the side, if I were you, and I'm not, but if I were, I would err on the side of not paying the fucking lending goons one effing penny. Pardon my French. Don't feed them money. Don't feed the beast. It's my own personal opinion. Do what you want. Hey, Evangeline Rue says uniparty, but who are the unitards? I'm gonna let that question hang in the air. But yeah, guys, Democrat, it's like a good cop, bad cop thing. We pretty much hate both parties at this point. The Republicans wag their fingers at us. The Democrats dangle carrots in front of us and trying to get us to vote for them. And we're gonna blow up in the faces of both parties if neither of them do something meaningful between now and November. And I hate to say it, guys, if you're a Democrat, that's going to hurt the Democrats way more, because right now the Democrats are looking very weak, and they need to pull a rabbit out of a hat if they're going to even have a chance at maintaining their hold on the House and the Senate through the midterms. I think at this point, Joe Biden needs to throw a major Hail Mary. And remember also, student loan borrowers, us borrowers, in fact, only distressed student loan borrowers. That's somewhere around 42 million people when you include private student loans. 42 million distressed student loan borrowers. We are, by far and away, the largest untethered voting bloc in U.S. history. We decided that last presidential election, Joe Biden lied to us, and a lot of us voted for him. We are the reason that Georgia, one of the worst states in the country for student loan debt, was even close in the first place. We are the reason that he won Pennsylvania. Our people provided those margins. And make no mistake, people with student loans vote at a far higher participation rate than average people. We just do. People who've been to college. That's true. Hey, Deanna. How are you, Deanna? Deanna Gregorian Bailey says, a business cannot operate without capital. The DOE capital must be dwindling to the point they will not be able to keep service providers on the board. I don't believe DOE would be able to operate if they garnish everyone at 15%. I kind of don't think they would either, Deanna. First of all, and I tell everybody, we don't know what's going to happen with this lending system. You should bulletproof yourself. There are ways that you can avoid wage garnishment. You can be a 1099 contractor. You can be your own boss, as they say, to avoid garnishment. There's a lot of things you can do. Yeah, I don't think that would be enough to keep them afloat either. I think it would be close, but if they tried to garnish everybody at 15%, well, first of all, they couldn't because you can only garnish on defaulted loans. So there's that. Um, but yeah, no, this beast needs to be starved out of existence. And that's the number one thing that we actually can do. There's a lot that we can't control, guys. In Washington, D.C. and with the media and, getting the truth out, there's a lot of things that we have no control over. But there's a few things that we can control, like whether we do our daily actions or not, number one. Number two, whether we pay money into this broken, corrupted, failed lending system or not. You already know my thoughts on that. But Jim Smith says the student loan system scam is on the verge of imploding. Just don't pay. Hey, preaching to the choir, man. I love that. The student loan system absolutely is imploding. In fact, that's a fait accompli. In fact, if you go to bit.ly/student loans finished, you can see a whole bunch of data that I will not bore you with here now tonight, but you will see a bunch of very easily proven data, which any rational thinker, when inculcating that data, will inevitably be led to the conclusion, strong conclusion, that this lending system is done. It's toast. It's finished. There is no saving it. There should be no saving it. It's a national threat. So I'm seeing a lot more comments here, guys. I'll tell you right now, I'm probably not going to be able to get through them all tonight. But Joanna Kern says, point in fact, Joanna Kern says, you missed my whole comment. I asked if you heard or saw the protests in Washington, D.C. yesterday about student loan cancellation. Honestly, Joanna, I didn't see it. We have protested in Washington, D.C. many, many times. And honestly, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I lived in Washington, D.C. for 3 years, and a 30-person demonstration in Washington, D.C. is forgotten almost as quickly as it concludes. Like, if you can get 100,000 people to Washington, D.C., that's something. Like the Women's March, many of the MAGA rallies, those are pretty big things that make news. But getting 30, 50, even 500 people to go to Washington, D.C. and get in one spot and do one thing, that's almost laughably ineffective. If you go to Washington, D.C. during the summertime, every weekend in fact, almost every day during the summer, if you walk around the city, you'll see 3, 4 protests. And it's like, oh, it's this union that day, and it's, oh, this disgruntled group this day, and nobody cares. So yeah, I didn't hear about this particular one. What I will say, guys, is what is far, 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 far more powerful than getting a small group together in Washington, D.C., which is really hard and really expensive, and it's a pain in the ass, by the way. And I applaud whoever did that protest, but it's just a super pain in the ass. What is far, 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 far more effective is everybody out there spending at least a few minutes a day fighting this battle from where they sit. If you've got the internet, and you do, then you can be fighting with us. So Vanjie, and that's one other thing I want to mention. James Cavall, 2 days ago reiterated that they were going to change the way they handle dealing with student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. And that's something, as I mentioned before, that we take a lot of credit for. It was us who made got Elizabeth Warren to bring that element, and including bankruptcy in total, into her presidential campaign. And Joe Biden dutifully copied and pasted, co-opted, endorsed Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy plan. But Vanjie says, Cavall announced today, I'm pleased to share some big news. Has appointed economist. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, Vanjie. That's a nothing burger. That the Department of Education hires a chief economist. That's meaningless. That's just swamp talk. That's just another University of Chicago PhD got another $200,000 a year job in Washington, and he's going to toe whatever the line that the Department of Education wants him to toe, and he will say very flowery things. He won't rock the boat. Deanna says this is a poor person's issue. Yes, this is a poor person's issue, Deanna. There's no doubt about that. It's a poor person's issue. It's actually if you think about it, it's actually a moderately wealthy families issue, in that actual wealthy people, they don't get student loans. Actual wealthy people, not pretend wealthy like people at the Brookings Institute would have us believe. Actual wealthy people don't get student loans. They have to pay full book value. They have to write checks for their kids' tuition. So this lending beast that stands behind everything is the number one, and maybe by far and away, it is the strongest cause of tuition inflation. So even people who don't take out student loans, who write checks for their kids, they should be on our side also. Very interesting fact. And I have had very long, heated discussions with wealthy people. And in every single case where they were good faith discussions, those people came around to shaking my hand, apologizing to me, and wishing me good luck with our little battle here. So wealthy people should be on our side. Yes, this is an apolitical group, as Jim Smith says. Hey, Michael Cheney says, hey. Michael Cheney is our famous guy of the month. He, well, actually, many of our people that I see here tonight have been featured in the media prominently lately. Vanjie was featured. Oh gosh, where was Vanjie featured? I want to say it was The Guardian. It was something called 19th News, but it was something else too. I can't remember. Michael Cheney got his photo in the New York Times a couple days ago, maybe a few days ago at this point. Michael's a truck driver, by the way. Speaking of truck drivers, we have normal people in this group, guys. We're not a bunch of fucking pansy weak snowflakes. We're not that. Brian Landis says, I've fed them enough for sure. Don't get me started, Brian. We have people who borrowed like tens of thousands of dollars, like $10,000 or $20,000, who have repaid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and who still owe way over $100,000. So and by the way, guys, don't worry about the taxpayers. The taxpayers will be fine, F-I-N-E, capital F, fine, when these loans are canceled. The taxpayers have made a king's fucking ransom on this lending scam certainly over the past 12 years since Obama federalized it. But even before Obama, the lending people were even making money on defaulted loans, which is something that no other lender for any other type of loan can brag about. So the taxpayer has done exceedingly well on this illegal, unconstitutional racket. And I will shed not one effing tear for the taxpayer. Pardon my French. Guys, I see a ton of more comments here. Deanna says, hey, Alan, you were like a man band. I think a one-man band. No, we were more than one man. We had a few people, 6, 7 people, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. We showed up to Washington, D.C. in 2017. We dragged a huge 12-foot tall inflatable ball and chain from the back lawn of Congress, the Capitol Dome, from there to the headquarters of the Department of Education. And we were pissed, and we blocked traffic, and we didn't give a fuck, and that's what we did. And you can see the pictures of it. Yeah, believe me, guys, we've done protests. We're not against protests at all, but the most efficient, strongest thing that we have, it's not the ability to fly to Washington, D.C. and put on a spectacle. It's us putting the time in every single day, starting with our daily actions. I don't know how many times I have to fucking say that. Pardon my French again. But okay, guys, I've said way too much. I'm sorry if I missed many of your comments. I'm sure I probably did. I will be back on Friday. Ed McKinley, our fearless co-leader, and a far funner guy to hang out with on a live stream, he will be with us tomorrow. So in the meantime, I'm only going to say one more thing. Do our daily action. Pull your weight. Be proud to be fighting this fight. And don't fuck it off. Pardon my French. We need you in this battle. So I'll see you Friday, guys. Make something happen between now and Friday. Surprise us. Make something big happen, and we will gladly brag on you about it. So good luck. Godspeed. God bless everybody.